live video is starting. It says,
Ah,
you're live!
I'm alive! So happy to be alive.
Hi, friends! Yay!
Yay!
Welcome to Dulcimoon Talk number 11. I'm Erin Mae,
Welcome.
and I'm here with Sarah Kate today. Finally!
I know, finally, it's been like just over and over again. Things have
Yes,
just natural disasters, crazy things.
crazy things. Crazy things. I'm really delighted that we finally get to have this conversation.
I know. Yes. Y'all don't have to be here. I'm just hanging out with Erin. It doesn't matter if you're here or not.
It's true. You're like a fly on the wall, and we just get to
It
chat.
doesn't.
But if you
I'm
have
just kidding.
questions for us, you can put them in the comments on Facebook. DJ is here helping us kind of keep an eye on that, so that's cool. Okay, so usually we kind of start with like, how did you get started
Yeah.
playing the dulcimer? And were there any women who were particularly influential in your
Mm.
musical journey along the way?
Yes, yes. So I started out when I was 6, 7 years old. My grandfather was retired at the time, and well, several years before that, after he retired, um, he took up a lot of hobby things, and he started doing oil painting, and he picked up the harmonica, and he did some woodworking, and he built a dulcimer from a kit. Um, and he built and my grandfather was um, a passionate and prolific and very mediocre artist. So it's actually delightful. My grandparents' houses were just covered with these beautiful oil paintings that were just not great, but there was a lot of them. Which I
That's
really
delightful.
appreciate that sentiment where like you don't have to be amazing at something to enjoy it and to
Yeah.
bring joy into other people's lives through that. And so I've got 3 of his paintings in my house right now. Anyway, so I think that's a perfect like segue into how he built my dulcimer. He built it from a kit, but he built it like backwards, right? So like after the first fret, it just drops off. And the peg head is by the strumming hollow. So it's not a left-handed dulcimer. It is not left-handed. It is just backwards. um,
So is it also like the wide end is at the strum hollow? And or is
um,
it backwards that
so
way
it's
too?
oh that would be really funny if it was. No, it's an hourglass shape. Or no, it's not. It's a teardrop shape,
Teardrop.
and the wide end is the strumming end. So we got that right. But my he passed away when I was, I think, 5, and then my parents found this dulcimer tucked away in my grandparents' house several years later, and like at that point I had been singing in church like every good Southern girl does, and music was part of my life, and I was enjoying music, and they thought, well, this is a good instrument to get started on, and dulcimer was my first instrument, um, which is, I think, I don't know, I think a unique experience because a lot of folks come from,
Especially as a child.
yeah, 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 and like teaching now, folks coming to the dulcimer from other instruments, they have a whole other perspective of the instrument versus me coming from the dulcimer to other instruments.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, um, yeah, and so my first teacher um, that inspired me and was hard on me and like really got me excited about the dulcimer was June Goforth. Do you know June? Do you know her
I
from?
don't know her super well, but I definitely know who she is.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. She is a big part of the Knoxville area Dulcimer Club,
Uh-huh.
and so um, when I was just started playing, we saw Knoxville area Dulcimer Club play at the Cumberland Gap Visitor Center at the National Park there, and it was just a happenstance that we just happened to be there, and Rudy Ryan, who's a member there as well, who was there, he directed me towards June, and June is a retired gym teacher, so she is enthusiastic about everything. And when you did really good, she got really excited, and when you did really bad, she also got really excited. And so it was also, I think I was probably 10, 11, 12, and it was scary. For part of it, it was scary. She was like this very like intense teacher, but that was really good for me. That was really good for me, as a little rather shy little girl, like her pushing me to play for other people, and like she was a big part of my just development as a human being. Um, you know, trying something that is difficult and getting the tools that you need to succeed at that, like in my life, that helped me grow so much confidence as a little girl. And especially going into the awkward teenage years, it was like, yeah, I can play. I'm pretty good at this. Like, and this is
Yeah.
something that
I was
June.
just thinking this week a lot around, we're in New Year's goal setting and resolution season, right? And like what makes setting goals successful and or not. And it's almost always what resources do you put in place around you to reach your goals? Because if you have the right resources, then you will be successful at it. It's not like usually the reason that we fail at something is not because we can't, it's
Mm,
because we didn't have the right set of resources to help us find the like I can part of it.
right, and make it easy to make those choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing that you had that in your very first teacher.
Yeah, yeah, she was incredible, um, and she still teaches folks at the retirement home that she's living at, and June sort of ushered me into the Knoxville area Dulcimer Club, and there were so many women there that took me under their wing and just made me feel a part of something um, special, you know. And it wasn't about like performing; it was just about getting together and playing music. Some women that I really enjoyed spending a lot of time with was their group was called TNT, and they were a little group of three, a trio of three dulcimer players: Debbie, Libby, Linda Smith, and Jenny Client. And I just had so much fun with them, and it was so fun as a teenager to like tag along with them, and they were so nice to include me in the things that they did, and they were just having so much fun. They were just having so much fun,
Yeah.
and seeing the music was just the camaraderie and the friendship that came from that group was just as important as the music. And it has always meant a lot to me that they were so good to me and
Yeah.
so inclusive.
I definitely had once I found other dulcimer players, it was much longer down my playing journey before I actually met other people who played dulcimer.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
but once I found that, I had very similar experiences of just people being so kind and generous with their time and giving me so much like helpful, instructive, knee to knee kind of music making time that was just like absolutely magical.
yeah.
And I, at the time, I thought, this is so incredible. Like, I'm just a kid. Why would you invest that in me? And now as an adult in the community, it's like, oh, because kids are actually fairly rare to
Mm,
have these
yeah,
instruments.
yeah.
And so there is a big kind of collective agreement that whenever we find kids, we're gonna nurture them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think that's especially true of old time music and traditional
Yeah.
music. You know, there's this sense of not urgency, but a sense of like it's not only it's non-negotiable. We have to incorporate children. We have to incorporate young people and listen to them and listen to what the kind of music they want to learn on these instruments. and we have to collaborate with them because otherwise, our instrument, our this tradition of passing music from one human being to the next, that chain is broken,
Yeah.
and in a way that is different than I think other genres.
Right, because not every genre has the tradition is we
Yeah,
pass this music to the
yeah,
next person by teaching by rote or by ear. It's got a
yeah.
tradition that holds more like, well, you write it down and you teach the method of how to read it, and then the next generation can do it, right?
Right, right,
Or
right. And
yeah.
I remember when I first started getting into playing by ear and like being surrounded by musicians and like picking out stuff. That is when music got really exciting for me.
Mm,
It was not the you know learning just tunes from paper was fun, but like I really caught the bug when people like taught me how to learn by ear.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because it there is a learning of how to do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I can
Like
remember,
it's like learning a new language.
yeah, I was about 12 and I was very convinced that I could not play anything by ear, partially
Really?
because I was very bad at piano ear training. Look, very, very bad at it. But Steven Seifert sat down knee to knee, and Steven Seifert is really good at teaching by ear, but also rote.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not gonna play the whole song for you and then expect you to be able to play it back to me. That's a ridiculous expectation. So here's the first five notes. I'm starting here and then I'm doing this. Now I'm going to play that over and over, see if you can do it with me. And he taught me to play Rubens' Train knee to knee in a little campground. And at the end of it, he was like, see, you can play by ear. And I was like, that didn't feel like what I thought playing by ear was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not just see you can do it. It was changing the definition of what that actually
Mm.
means.
Yeah. And like going back to what you said about resolutions, like setting yourself up to succeed by
Yeah.
creating a little nest for you to live in.
Yeah,
That way.
that's amazing. So, I'm curious to know at what point in your journey did music move from like a thing I do as a kid for fun into like a thing I think I want to pursue as the thing that I dedicate my life to?
Yeah. Um, it probably happened later than I don't know. Like I was toying with the idea of like playing music or having music as part of my life professionally through my teenage years.
Hmm.
Um, but then I also had this idea that like it'd be really hard to make a living just playing the mountain dulcimer, right? And at that point,
Yeah.
I didn't have a concept of like you can play the dulcimer in lots of different spheres of music, lots of different
Mm,
genres. There's lots of different applications for my skill set, So like
yeah.
it felt like I was really there's teaching and performing at dulcimer festivals felt really like
Yeah.
the only way. That was the only thing that occurred to me.
Yep.
I'd say I went to school for. I took a break after high school and took a gap year and played a lot of music, and worked a couple little different jobs, and then went to school for a year, and then from there I transferred to Morehead State where I got my degree in traditional music, and at that point, through my older teenage years, I got more involved Um, in like old time music communities and the old time and bluegrass world, and got more involved in like studio sessions and being a
Mm,
supporting musician and being a songwriter. So my horizons broadened. Um,
yeah.
oh wow, like you can really cobble together a great living playing music. Um, and and in reality, most people that are playing music or music is their career, they do a million and one things, and this. You
Yep.
perform, you teach, you're constantly recreating something new, and I love that about it. Um, so when I started school to study music was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go all in. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but
Right.
I want music to be my source of income.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
My passion and my job.
Yeah. Is the same. I'm curious about, can I interview you?
Yes. That's
So like,
reasonable.
like, because
I'm
if you grew up playing like in a band from like itty
Yeah, so
bitty.
my family, I had the family band thing going on from the time that I was pretty young. Well, I mean, it morphed into like a real thing by the time I was a teenager, but my first performance in front of people was when I was 4 at a nursing home, and my dad was playing mandolin and
Love it.
singing the little old folk songs, and then he would have me and my sister come up on the stage. So I was 4, and my sister's 2 years younger, so she was 2.
Ooh.
Would come stand up there and sing Jesus Loves Me in This Little Light of Mine, and then dad would say, okay, you can go sit down, and he would sing 6 or 8 more folk songs, and then we would go around and give hugs to all the little old ladies who are in the
Oh.
nursing home. And so yeah, I had the like performance element woven into my whole entire childhood for sure. My parents were super supportive and also really discouraged us from pursuing music as a career
Mm.
because our context would have been less dulcimer centric because we didn't discover the dulcimer community until I was like 14 range. So already there was a large background of performing together and of bluegrass festivals, and all of the performing bluegrass musicians are on the road a lot. And so my parents were like, if you want to have a family, you just will never be home. And it's a really hard way to make a living to not be in a place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, somewhere along the way in high school, I became really intrigued with music therapy. So, my mom has a medical background, she's a physical therapist. And so, the sort of medical side is also woven into my childhood. So, I was like, well, maybe this would be a career path that I could actually merge those things together. And the path to get into music therapy that I opted for was to go to a really small college because I was intimidated by lots of people. And so I was
And
like, I'm going to go to a little small college that advertised in their materials that they had a pre music therapy track. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take that. Well, I got there and like no one knew anything about the pre music
oh.
therapy track.
It
So
was
I
just
could
a line in the
either be
bookstore.
a piano performance major or a music education major. Like that was your choices. And I knew that I didn't want to be a classical pianist in a symphony. So, which is the only thing I knew you could do with a piano performance degree.
Yeah.
So, my other path was music education. So, I took the music education path. And in that school, it was going to be 5 years just to get a bachelor's degree in music education. And my piano teacher, God bless her, she and I just had very different goals for my life. And um, she was really determined to make me a classical pianist, and I was really determined to be a folk
Ow!
musician who was going to do music therapy with my life. And so she was really pushing Bach, and I was really uninterested in
You
Bach.
were
So
pushing Bach.
we kind of went round and round, and I would want to go to folk music concerts for concert attendance credit, and she wouldn't give me credit for those. It had to be something classical, but I could get credit for going to like a musical as a piano major where there wasn't even a pianist. And I was like, what on earth am I, like, what am I doing?
See,
So that
that's the
didn't
joy
stick.
of well, that's the joy of going to a bluegrass college because I got credit for going to like jam sessions and square dances.
Yeah. So it was a really winding path from there to where I have landed, which is that I'm super passionate about teaching music now. But I really didn't, I mean, I did not set out to be a music teacher.
Watching you do your thing. I'm just gonna brag on Erin Mae for a little bit.
Aw.
Like, Erin Mae, like, I feel like your brain is just constantly churning out good ideas. I'll be scrolling through like Facebook, like what is she doing now? I'm like you are such an entrepreneur, but like an entrepreneur of community and connections, and like you were just so good at that, and like finding ways to encourage people. I feel like you like, and using music to empower people, and your edge like I feel like seeing you teach is like you're teaching so much more than just like how to strum a dotted eighth note pattern. Like you're teaching people how to love music, and I just love that about you.
Oh. You know,
It is
you
such a gift
mentioned
we have.
how important the community aspect of music was in your growing up, and like that's it for me. And that's actually how I ended up not doing performance. Um, because my sister and I toured full time for like 5 years across the United States
Yeah.
performing, and our entire focus is like to be performers. And the dream gig is to play at folk and bluegrass festivals. And we did it, and
Yeah,
I
you were
hated
great.
it. It was terrible.
Oh
The bigger
no.
the event, the more successful it looked, you know, on paper and in the festival flyer, the
Yeah.
less connected I was to the people who
Mm.
were actually there. It felt more
Yeah.
and more like creating a distance between me and the audience, or between me and anyone else. And as that distance kept getting bigger, the stage is literally bigger. The distance is physically bigger between
Yes.
me and the audience. And I hated it more and more and more.
Mm.
And I kind of had to take a step back and say, how do I find a way to stay connected to the people? Because music has always, for me, been about the connections and the way that it can sort of help us process things that sometimes words are just insufficient for.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what music has been in my life. And so I'm on a constant quest to figure out how to make a living with music in a
Yeah.
way that maintains that connectivity and that like deeper drilling down.
Yeah. That feels authentic to you and your personality and
Yeah,
your spirit, which you've done
yeah.
an amazing job of.
Okay, so it's my turn to then brag on Sarah Kate, because I absolutely adore everything that you are doing in the community, and I love watching the way you are incorporating, again, you're incorporating the dulcimer just into everything.
Yeah.
And you have the most amazing voice. If you sang to me every single day for my whole life, I would be fine with that. So I just think it's so beautiful that you have some clearly innate gifts in that, and also are really dedicated to working with them and using them and finding all the creative spaces to be in. And you have landed yourself at the Heinemann Center. So
Yeah.
tell us about what you do at the Heinemann Center.
Oh, well, I really love it. I'm there. I'm here right now. So I work for the Hyman Settlement School, which is in Knott County, Kentucky, and there's a deep connection between Knott County and the Mountain Dulcimer, and the Hyman Settlement School specifically, and Gene Ritchie. Um, and so, long story short, Hyman Settlement is a nonprofit that focuses on rural arts education for our local school district. Which, with a lot of rural school districts, there's very little or no money at all for arts education,
Yeah.
and so this nonprofit helps fill that gap. And we also do things like dyslexia education and agriculture education, teaching people how to grow their own food. Um, and so we're a similar if you've ever been to John C. Campbell Folk School or the Adirondack Folk School. It's kind of the similar mission,
And
teaching.
in the
um,
Midwest, it's the Ozark Folk Center
oh
is
yeah, 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 yeah. Man, I missed
yeah.
that. I need to go back sometime. I really love that place. um, but I feel so lucky because I get to um, help meet a need of arts education, but get to do it um, with a Appalachian culture flavor, right? So I'm not just teaching color theory or how to play a particular rhythm. I'm teaching how to play the dulcimer, how to weave, how to do pottery, how to do traditional art forms. So I'm just so lucky, and I think you probably feel the same way about the work that you do is, get
Yeah.
to incorporate the dulcimer and the things that we grew up doing in traditional music into our daily lives, which I feel so lucky. Yeah, so I am essentially just a traveling music teacher and an arts administrator for art-based things, because I'm not as skilled in physical or visual art,
Yeah.
but but I get to travel around and do programs at schools, so which is a whole lot of fun. And we got a lot of kids playing dulcimer, which I'm really excited about through some after-school music lessons, and yeah, it's just it brings me a lot of joy.
And dulcimers for David has sort of helped make sure that you guys
Yes,
have dulcimers, right? And that's
yes,
the
yes.
Borders project.
Yeah, we've got I believe 5 or 6 dulcimers from that program, and they were used. They're currently they're not here. They're in the homes of kids that are playing them, and
Amazing.
we're just so grateful. I remember, like, when I first started working here, we had like a classroom set of banjos and guitars and fiddles, but we didn't have many dulcimers. I was like, well, I want to start teaching dulcimer lessons.
Right?
And so I think this was like during the beginning of the pandemic where I felt like asking for people to donate money. I was like, people are stretched thin right now. There's an uncertain future. And I, being in the dulcimer world, like, how many times, Erin, do people come up to you and be like, I have a dulcimer and it's like tucked underneath my bed. I've got a dulcimer on my wall. I never play it. And so, like,
Uh-huh.
there's gonna be a lot of people like that. So we put out a call to like the dulcimer world, like if you have a dulcimer that you would like to donate towards our program, and we got avalanche. Like we have like 25 dulcimers now from all over the world,
Yay!
um, and from all different builders. Like, amazing to that the kids play, on a weekly basis.
Oh, yeah, that
Dul-
makes me so
Dulcimer
happy.
people, they are an army. They are an insatiable army. Like if you reach out to them for anything, they will swamp you. Like,
Our
it's
our mutual friend Carla Gover, I got to know her
yeah.
during the pandemic, like the beginning of the pandemic, and in the music community at large, there was a lot of like, oh no, what are we gonna do? None of us can go perform. What are we gonna do? And I started telling her, well, like in the dulcimer community, we've just sort of all collectively agreed that we're going to learn how to do Zoom. And all these festivals have taken everything online. There's new festivals forming, and we're doing these online classes, and people are signing up for absolutely everything. And she's like, what? The dulcimer? And I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. Our
Yeah.
people are like, yes, sign me up for it. What can I do? How can I be a part of it?
We are a hive mind. We're this far from being a cult sometimes, and I'm okay with it personally.
Me too. It's like the absolute best.
Yeah, if I am gonna be in a cult, I can't think of a better one to be in.
Yes. So Patty Freestead asked in the chat, what inspires you to get young kids excited about playing dulcimer?
Mm. Um, Honestly, just knowing how much joy it brought me,
Me
knowing,
too.
um, just thinking back, putting myself back, in that mindset, and just how much joy it brought me, just how much I'd play for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it was the best form of just taking care of myself in some ways. Like, I remember, you know, having a lot of feelings and then going and playing the dulcimer, and it
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of language I feel like now about like emotional regulation and dysregulation that didn't exist when we were kids. Nobody
no.
had those words for it. But I'm like, oh yeah, dulcimer for sure. And piano for me too. I had piano and dulcimer. Um, they were for sure my emotional regulation
Yeah,
devices.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that is how I got from dysregulated states to more
Mhm.
regulated. A
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think another thing, seeing kids, see, like, it's really simple, but seeing kids play music in a group setting is really inspiring to me. Like, seeing the listening that has to happen and the communication, both verbal and nonverbal communication that has to happen when you get
Yeah.
together to play music as a group. And even as adults, that same communication happens. Like, uh, just a lot of listening has to take place and a lot of watching, and you have to make space for other people. And seeing that kind of collaboration happen is very inspiring. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of space in the like group music playing too to help kids really see and internalize that everybody's different.
Mm.
We can all sort of have our different favorite songs, have a different way of doing it, have a different way of holding the instrument, have a different way of adding a strum here, a little embellishment there. And so much of schoolwork is like there's a right answer and a wrong answer, and the kids who sort of think
Yeah.
outside the box tend to just be told over and over again that they're wrong. And you bring them into a musical space, especially with like folk music styles where it's largely got an element of improvisation and of
Mhm.
personal interpretation. And those kids can bring their whole creative selves in.
Yeah,
And
they
the
get
kids who are
wild.
used to
Yeah.
being told, like, you're always doing it right, have to also sort of make room in their understanding for, and so are the kids who are doing it differently than you.
Yeah.
Like, because
Yeah.
there isn't just a right way of doing
Mhm.
this. And that's, I don't know, that's been really cool for me. I've seen a lot of kids who are just dealing with more sort of anxiety about doing things right. There seems to be a lot of just kind of overall anxiety about like messing up.
Mhm.
And music feels like this incredible space where I can tell them, like, there isn't a way for you to make sounds wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
You don't have to bring your anxious self into this room because there isn't
Mhm.
a way to do it badly.
Oh wow, I love that. I love how you phrase that. Yeah, you can leave your anxious self outside. He doesn't. They don't get to come in.
Ah. And that goes for grown-ups too,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
That's not just a kid thing.
I remember one time I was teaching at this somewhere, some week long thing somewhere, and there was this one gentleman who was like, every time he made even the smallest mistake, he would just get so like emotionally distraught, and I was like, he was just like, it was like if he missed like the F sharp on measure three, it was like just breaking him apart emotionally.
Oh.
And I was like, look, dude. I was like, I am not emotionally invested in your success. Like if you if
Right.
you if you mess up, but that's also great because I'm also not emotionally invested in your failure either. And he was like, what? But but like, if you mess up, I'm still gonna love you, and if you do it great, I'm still gonna love you. Like, there's not gonna be,
Uh-huh.
your ability to be successful at this thing is not gonna change, how we get along in music lessons.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
something that, I got from June too, because she was always delighted for me to be there, and whether I practiced a lot or didn't, or if I was successful at something or wasn't successful, like she was always enthusiastic about me doing something good or enthusiastic about you need to do better next time. But she was always there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, 30 minutes always goes by in a snap, and we have reached 34 minutes,
Okay.
but there's one more thing I want us to talk about,
Yes.
which is kids' music activities for the Dulcimoon Festival. So,
Yes.
when we first started brainstorming about what it would look like to have a woman led Dulcimer Festival, you were in on those early brainstorms, and Judy House and DJ Hamouris, of course, as the founder of this community. So, we started talking about the barriers for women in music. And one of the barriers is women tend to be the primary caregivers for the children and then don't have the time and space and even sometimes like the mental space to do anything else. So we started talking about wanting to have some kind of things for kids so that moms have some space during the festival
Yeah.
event. And doing that online doesn't means that we can't like provide a physical childcare for them, but what could we do? So we started imagining different things, and then we got to this week and went, well, what are we going to actually do? So, what we're going to do is an hour on Saturday morning and an hour on Sunday morning. On Saturday, Sarah, Kate, is gonna take the kiddos and do some really fun things. And on Sunday, I'm gonna take the kiddos and do some really fun things. And we are gonna make it 100% free. Any kids you do not have to already be signed up for the Dulcimoon Festival, although you still have time. As the registration doesn't close until tomorrow if you
Yeah.
want to take classes yourself. But
Send it to
there,
your grandkids if you have
yeah,
grandkids.
grandkids,
Send
exactly. So, Sarah, will you talk a little bit about like the different kinds of activities
Yeah.
that may arise?
Yeah, we're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be a big party. Um, we're gonna be doing some sing-alongs. We're gonna be writing some songs together, coming up with new words to old traditional songs, which I really enjoy. We're gonna be doing some movement, doing some wiggling around, doing some dancing. Um, I will be playing dulcimer as well as a couple other instruments and maybe a couple surprises. Um, we'll also in my on the Saturday session we'll be incorporating some art as well as music into that just as a way to center and to bring a lot of what we do, as Erin knows, is like hyping kids up and like getting them really excited, and then they also need to have time to like center so they can come back to earth. And so we'll be doing some meditative, art-based, and music-based activities that involve listening to music and associating colors with, well, how does this sound? If this sound were a color, what would it look? What would it be? And illustrating the journey of a song and doing some fun doodles, as well as maybe designing our own dream dulcimer. What would that look like? So
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. So we are kind of targeting elementary age kids with this program, but there is not an upper or lower age limit.
yeah,
So the assumption here is that like you know your kids, or you know the kids in your community, and you know if sitting through a kind of hour long thing online is gonna work for them. And so if they're younger than elementary school and you think, they would love this, or they're older than elementary school and you think, man, they would just really like to connect with some other kids who are interested in music or they really
yes,
love music. Um, on Sunday, if you want to bring instruments, if you got kids who play instruments, you can bring instruments and we'll do a couple of play along songs where I walk everybody through playing the chords that they'll need to play along, and so you can bring noisemakers and definitely bring some sort of crafty supplies if you're planning to join in. And I've got all this information kind of put together. We'll be posting it in the Dulcimoon group and on the Dulcimoon website today so you can get more information. So it's totally free, but we're going to require a registration process. So we'll have the link for you to register, and that will just help us plan for how many kids we're going to
yeah,
be working.
party.
I'm super excited about it.
Me too.
I'm going to come join you on Saturday, I think. I'm going to be
Good.
a button on the
I
wall.
will do the same. I'll join you.
That'd be great. So, okay, well, Sarah, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little while
Thanks,
today and chatting
Erin.
with our community about all things Dulcimer. I just love you. I
I love
really
you too. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to see everybody next weekend. And I can't wait. I feel like I've made myself a little nest in my apartment, and I'm just so excited to like have a cozy little time and visit with all these people that I love and know. It's just so special.
Oh, yay. Okay. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you down the road.
Goodbye.
Bye.